Welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news. And look, apologies from earlier. I warned you I probably couldn't watch the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer press conference. And when push came to shove, I went to Wagamama's instead. I just couldn't do it. So big up to Adam for covering it for me. I just couldn't. And to be honest with you, I watched it tonight and I had to fast forward him to make his voice sound different. I couldn't. I never could have done that live. I would have just lost my whatever it is. I just couldn't face it. And it was exactly what I knew it was going to be. Pretty easy questions and regurgitated answers, which we'll get into. But look, there's three things I want to hit straight through from the start of the show. We're going to start off with Jesse Lingard. I want to talk about what Ronaldo's posted, and then we're going to talk about the key line from Solskjaer, who basically admitted he's not good enough. Probably didn't realise he didn't. Probably thought he gave a good answer, but actually exposed himself as not good enough. So we'll talk about that. But talking about exposing people, Jesse Lingard's left himself quite exposed this afternoon. I've seen a lot of the response. I've given my response, which actually, can I just say from the off, this is not a witch hunt against Jesse Lingard. I think we've been through this 3 or 4 years ago when, you know, Jesse Beans used to act a bit of a prat and got a little bit of stick. I think he's matured, and I think this is a frustration, what he's done today. So effectively, West Ham mentioned him scoring a goal, and basically he posted on his story a picture of himself in a West Ham kit. Which might not be that deep to some people, but could be very deep to others. And I've seen a lot of the response, and there's a lot of United fans who've reacted badly to it. What I would say is that the thing I take away from this is not a witch hunt against Jesse Lingard or anything like that. I think that at the end of the day, if I'm absolutely blunt, I like Jesse Lingard. I think he offers something off the bench, but it's Jesse Lingard. I mean, why we're acting... I saw bloody... what's his name? Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic saying that Jesse Lingard's absence over the bad run, you know, has really compounded the bad run. I was like, we got hammered by Leicester, Atalanta played us off the park, Liverpool played us off the park, and City played us off the park. I don't think 20-minute cameos from spinning the final third Jesse was going to make any difference. Jesse Lingard wouldn't have stopped us getting hammered in those games. I think Jesse Lingard is not a first-team quality player for United. I think he's a bench quality player. I think there's overhyping about it. Oh, the treatment's ridiculous, this, that and the other. I don't actually think he's that good. I just think he's been lied to. And I think his career is being wasted. I think if he'd gone to West Ham, he'd be a star player at West Ham. But at Manchester United, he's a bench player, and he's clearly not been told that. And I said this in the summer, and many of you did as well. Somebody should have sat him down in the summer and said, you're better off going to West Ham because you'll be a first-team player there. You won't be a first-team player at Manchester United. You'll be a bench player. And Jesse would have gone, you know what, I want more than that. But somewhere along the line, someone's told him he's going to get first-team games. And that, obviously, is on Ole. So it comes down to Ole and the ownership who lied to him. So I understand why he's frustrated. To be honest with you, I think Jesse's frustrated and been lied to. The club have obviously lied to him, we presume, and the people who know the truth are the fans. What would you have said to Jesse Lingard in the summer? I would have sat him down and said, what you've done at West Ham's brilliant. You've got yourself back in the England team. You've won Barclays Premier League Player of the Month. You're massively popular at at West Ham. Leicester probably want you. Everton want you. Take your pick of club, 25 million, all the best. We did this with Nicky Butt at this age. We did it with Phil Neville at this age. All the best. You're a Manchester United product, youth, whatever. You've been a good servant to the club. Wish you all the best. Go and get a career like you deserve. That's the chat I would have had with him. The chat clearly wasn't that because he's hung around for what? So I think that, you know, ultimately it's the same thing that's been said to Donny. It's been probably said to Ahmad. It's probably been said to Tellez. It's probably been said to Bailly. You know, it's poor man management at the end of the day, and ultimately you can see why Lingard's frustrated. Have you seen the spin about us being in talks with French youngster? Oh yeah, looks legit, Lee. Thank you very much for that. Ollie looks like a supply teacher, no control, no authority. Well, as I said this morning, Nick, he's become an interim coach, and we'll talk about Ollie in a moment. But look, where do you stand on Jesse Lingard posting out a picture of himself in a West Ham shirt? Because if it was Paul Pogba, Sky would do a live show now. They'd get Graham Souness on. Graham Souness is probably out for a meal or something like that. They'd fly him into the studio. Let's go. Pogba's posted a picture of himself in a Juventus top. Let's absolutely destroy him. And that I have to call out. I think that You know, people can say it's not that deep. It would be deeper than the ocean if Paul Pogba had done it. It would be deeper than the ocean if Martial did it. It would be deeper than the ocean if De Gea did it. But because it's an English player, well, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. You know, it is deep. It is disrespectful to do it. Like, I can see why people are angry about it. I can see why people have lost, you know, a lot of tempers this afternoon. But you do have to temper it with the fact that the way that you can understand Jesse's frustration. But the day before a big game, posting out a picture of you in a team shirt that is above us in the league, I don't think Jesse really meant anything by it. I think he probably put it out as he had a good time at West Ham. I wish I was back there, maybe. But you can see, it's, you know what it is? It's the same as what Harry Maguire put out after the Man City result. You know, we go again, bullshit. And Ronaldo's done it, and I'll call that out as well. Reading the room. Jesse's just not read the room there. But I would say, to be honest with you, rather than getting mad with Jesse, do you feel like getting mad with Jesse? I don't. I just think if Pogba had done it, everyone would go mad at him. So you've got to keep that in your head. But to be honest with you, he'll probably get more game time now. Paul Pogba with Firmino Raiola this time last year, you know, before the Leipzig game, basically said Ollie was a load of shit and started playing games in the midfield. So Jesse, you know, disrespecting Ollie or whatever you want to call it, or calling him out, he'll probably get to play more games now, because Ollie, to be honest, when he gets called out in public, he doesn't want to fight. So it might work for Jesse. I wouldn't be surprised if Jesse plays more games now, because you call Ollie out and he tends to back down, because at the end of the day, it's well known in and around that club. And look, remember, these players are contracted to the club. I always say this. Well, people will say, well, why do the players come out and back Ollie? Why did the players stay quiet about the Super League? For a long time, they stayed quiet, and then we started to hear rumblings. But there was, you know, there's 30 first-team players at United. They stayed pretty quiet about the Super League because they're contracted to Manchester United. And they're contracted to Manchester United now. And they will come out and say positive things. But it's well known around the club, in the journalistic world, around the coaching, around the club itself. Not many people in that football club, playing staff, respect Solskjaer as a coach. They respect him as a nice guy, but they don't respect him as a coach. And some of them even are sort of fooled by that. They like him so much as a guy that they sort of overlook his inability to improve them and win trophies. So, you know, Solskjaer being disrespected is nothing new. He's just not good enough at this level. And I think that, you know, the Lingard thing is a shame. But I think we've got bigger fish to fry. You know, I think that the real issue is that, you know, are you gonna start crying about Jesse Lingard wearing a West Ham shirt? Posting a picture of him in West Ham, or are you gonna actually focus on the real issue, which was today? Why the hell is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and his set of coaches still in charge of this football club? Because it just felt wrong today. It felt really wrong, him doing that press conference. And you know, listening to some of the stuff that he said about going on a good run again, and it's been a good break, and we'll go through some of that in a minute. It just didn't feel right. Ben says, I knew that Lingard should have stayed at West Ham. He'd be cruising by now. Yeah, well, we all said it in the summer. Why did he stay? Will Roy Keane call out Lingard like he would if it was De Gea or Pogba? Says Taha. You did the right thing, Mark. We wouldn't have been able to see you anyway due to the steam coming out of your ears. Keep your chin up and take care, says Glenn. Thank you very much. Ollie should rightly be held responsibility for the state of the squad due to his poor man management and tactics, but never forget who empowered him to get us here. It starts and ends with the Glazers. I agree, Brandon. And Fun Maths Friday, 2022 minus 2003 equals 9. Fun Maths Friday, says Liam Deegan. Thank you very much. 9 years. Exactly. You're right, actually. I know what you're doing there. I always mention 8 years, but it's 9 years. If any player calls out Ollie, he gives them game time. If Donny calls him out, Ollie benches him to oblivion, says Oz. Yeah, that is true. Donny, it didn't work for Donny, does it? Maybe it needs to be a little bit tougher. But look, I want to get into some of the stuff Ollie said. I want to get into your questions because it's Friday night, so please smash a like on the video. But yeah, with the Lingard thing, I wouldn't, you know, it's bad what he's done, but there's a bigger picture here. And I don't think Jesse wants to disrespect Manchester United, if that's what people think. Maybe he has done inadvertently, but you know, he's been lied to. You know, the thing people don't realise is that when you're a 28-year-old player, and we said this in the summer, you haven't got many years left. He was absolutely probably playing some of the best football he's played in his career back at the end of last season. He comes back to Manchester United. Why does he stay? We were having these conversations. Why is he staying? He's never going to be good enough to play for us. And as a first teamer, he's obviously been told something. Dean Henderson's another one as well. Is it me or did Ollie seem defeated today? Says Tamar. I hope it is going to be the end of Solskjaer in relation to his things, but I don't know. I don't know. Be interesting to see if Jesse makes the squad tomorrow, because ultimately I think he'll start playing more games now. Ollie never wants to fight publicly because he sees it as an issue. He didn't want it with Pogba, did he? But look, before we talk about Ollie, let me just, I always want to be fair. I always want to be even-handed. Bruno is one of my favourite players, but when he plays badly, I'll admit it. Martial really has been one of my favourite players at the club. Last year he was appalling, I'll admit it. I think that's what, not having agendas and actually being fair is, Scott McTominay scores a hat-trick tomorrow and he's man of the match, he'll get man of the match from me. That's the way it works. So you've always got to be fair, even though some people, I wouldn't even start tomorrow, but that's by the by. I saw a post from Cristiano Ronaldo today, and I'm going to read it out because I just want to... Manchester United have been desperately trying all week, for the last 2 weeks, for the last month really, trying to get their social media interaction back on track. When Ronaldo was scoring goals, they were loving it. Pitch side angle, this, that and the other. Just hype. They've not been able to do it. And virtually every response to United on Instagram and Twitter at the moment is sack Ollie, this, that and the other. There's a lot of unhappiness. But Ronaldo posted something today and then United used it, because that's basically what United are now. They are Ronaldo FC, because he is the only thing they can use that's going to give them massive positivity. But what he posted today, I've got to call it out, and what he posted, obviously, Ronaldo is one of the biggest sportsmen in history. I very much doubt he sat there on Twitter putting stuff out, but time to roll up the sleeves once again and just get the job done. Let's chase what we are trying to achieve this season. United have retweeted this. Ronaldo has put it out there. I would say this. Let's try... time to roll up the sleeves once again and just get the job done. So let's go again, basically. And if you can criticise Maguire for it, you can criticise Ronaldo for it. So let's go again. And then the second part, let's chase what we are trying to achieve this season. You know what I would say to that? Can you tell us what we're trying to achieve this season? Because that, to me, is just noise. And just because it's from Ronaldo doesn't mean it shouldn't be called out. Now, Ronaldo, he's a legend. I can't believe he's back at the football club. But doesn't mean that it can't be regurgitated, here we go nonsense. Let's try and achieve what we're trying to achieve. What are we trying to achieve then? Because this is the thing that the fans are confused about at the moment. At the start of the season, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said the aim was to be in a title race in April. Is that the aim? Is that what you're talking about, Cristiano? Or is it now a race to get back in the Champions League? Because that's the problem. The club are very good at not telling us a bloody thing at the moment. What is it we are trying to achieve? Because ultimately, they won't tell us. Because if they tell us it's 4th place, there'll be uproar. But they can't tell us it's a title race because they know that's not going to happen. So, it's like, let's try and achieve what we're trying to achieve without telling anybody what we're trying to achieve. Hi Mark, can you wish my mate Vaz a happy birthday and can you call him a prat? Vaz, you're a prat, but happy birthday. That's from Jacob Williams. Ollie should rightly be held responsible. We did that one from Brandon, didn't we? And hi Mark, is there a Premier League preview this week? Says SD971. No, I've run out of time. I should have done it actually. In fact, I need to do my fantasy Premier League. But thanks for the super chats that are coming in. Right, let's talk about some of the stuff that Ollie said. White Owl says Ronaldo is an international icon. He has to be careful with his words. You know what? Cristiano Ronaldo is almost in that arena for me where he's beyond reproach. But he won't be. He won't be. If he nails his flag to the mast of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and incompetence, then incompetence will rub off on you. I said this about Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw and Bruno the other day, and I'll say it again. If you're going to be in the Ole In club and start backing this mess, which is basically... It's not even about Ollie. Remember, being Ollie in isn't about Solskjaer anymore. Everyone knows Solskjaer's not good enough. Ollie in is weakness from the Glazers who won't make a decision. So any player that jumps on that wagon is basically a Glazer bitch at the end of the day. So, that's the problem. People are very angry and very frustrated with how this club is being run. If certain players want to get on board with how the club is being run, then they become part of the problem. So players need to be very careful. And, I'm sure Ronaldo is very aware of that because he loves Manchester United, but he's also very conscious about his brand. Renate, thank you very much for the super sticker there. I never thought I'd find myself enjoying QPR versus Luton on a Friday. I grew up in the 90s and I've never been so detached from my club, says Nick. Yeah, you know what? I mean, I'm looking forward to Leicester-Chelsea tomorrow. I'm looking forward to Liverpool-Arsenal, probably more, in a footballing sense, more than Watford-United. Watford-United, I'm looking forward to... I want the 3 points, of course I do. But you know what I sort of want, you know what I would like? You know when you sim a match on FIFA? I'd like to sim Man United against Watford because I think we will win 3-1. I'd like to sim the game and just move on. I don't really see what tomorrow will do. What I'm worried about tomorrow is what we'll get tomorrow night when we win. Suddenly, people who've just disappeared for a month will start going, this is why you get behind your team, get behind the lads, get behind, you know, this player and that player who's been shit for weeks. You know it's all coming back. And to be honest, I know next week they'll be shit again. So it's like, just sim the match, get the 3 points and move on to Villarreal and Chelsea is what I would like to do. Because if we beat Watford 5-0 tomorrow, what does that mean? We're back! Ollie's back, we're playing a brand new style of football. No, it doesn't mean that, does it? You know, we've just got to get the win tomorrow. You know, if Ronaldo scores a couple of worldies, I'll love that. But, you know, get the win, get out of Dodge and get onto some proper games. What if United is keeping our league because Haaland really likes Ollie and has worked with him in Mulder, and United will certainly want Erling. Love the channel, says the big. What? That's ridiculous. You know, that's like, you know, you run a restaurant and the worst chef in the world works for your restaurant, but you know, there's this girl you fancy that you want to go out with and it's her brother. And the way to go out with her is through the brother. Now, a lot of people will do that, but, you know, your restaurant's going to be shit. I've watched the show every day religiously for 4 years. This is the first time I haven't watched this week because I don't want to know about football. Shambles, says Ed B. Yeah, well, you know what? I can understand that. It's the first press conference I haven't watched in about 5 years. So I understand that. I'm frustrated as well. Ollie's comments about in off the post etc. to win games admitted that we are moments FC, says Rory Saunders. Well, look, I need to touch on that. So let's touch on some of the stuff that Solskjaer said. I know Adam did a great job on the press conference reaction, but these are just certain things I wanted to bring into the show tonight. And also, can I just say, probably the most important bit about the show and the best bit from Ollie's press conference is that he admitted he's not good enough for the job. He just doesn't realise it because he was asked about the bad performances and how things are going. And he said, well, you know, we've been here before. We were here a year ago and we went on a run of, you know, 1 loss in 20 games. So, you know, we need to go and do that again. That to me is a total admission that he ain't good enough because this situation is crap. And what he basically, you know, he was asked the question, you're not in a good position at the moment. How do you feel about it? What did he say? Well, we've been here before and we went on a good run. So that's an acknowledgement that we've been in this position before. Yeah, you have been in this position before. You probably should have been sacked a year ago. And you probably should have been sacked after the Burnley game, just before we bought Bruno in the January. You know, nearly 2 years ago. You should have been sacked 2 years ago, a year ago, and now. So you have been here before. But he turns it into a positive. Well, I've been here before and then we've gone on a good run. And this is the problem. This is why I am Ollie out, because we have been here before. We've been here 3 or 4 times. And I know what's going to happen. I mean, I don't definitely know, but I think I know what's going to happen. I think we are going to go on a good run again. And I think we probably will get top 4. And then in about a year's time, we'll be back here again. And then he'll go on a good run again. And basically, we'll just waste 4 or 5 years. So yeah, I agree, Ollie. We have been here before. And that's why you should be sacked. Because we have been here before. You keep putting us into these positions. And then you go on a vibe run for 20 games where you just batten down the hatches and grind out results off moments. And he even said that himself in the same answer. He says, you know, sometimes you hit the post and it goes in and sometimes it doesn't. And it's that, you know, basically those moments can change how you feel in your mood. And that's that. He basically, he doesn't, I don't know whether he meant this. I don't think he meant it. How could you mean to undermine yourself publicly? But he basically said in the same answer, we've been here before and we've gone on good runs. And sometimes you hit the post and it goes in and sometimes you hit the post and it goes out. And it's that you get confidence from that. It's basically fine margins, moments. So we know what's coming. Like, we have been here before and we could go on a run of 20 games unbeaten. But those 20 games unbeaten were not like 20 games unbeaten 15, 20 years ago, where you're beating teams because you're too bloody good. We went on a 20-game unbeaten run and we were winning games 1-0, 2-1, coming back from 2-0 down to win 3-2. It was always tight. So yeah, you can go on an unbeaten run. Of course you can, but it's never entertaining, and it's never done in a way that makes you think we're going to win anything. And ultimately, what's a good run if there's no big trophy at the end of it? And that's, to me, I'm sure Sir Alex Ferguson has said that, and I'm sure certain ex-players have said that. What's an unbeaten? I think Roy Keane said it actually at some point in the last 6 months. Roy Keane was talking about the away record and said, well, what's an away record if you haven't got a trophy at the end of it? And this is the thing, the lowering of the standards. He mentioned it himself. You know, other than Spurs, we've been unbeaten in 30 games away from home. Whoop-de-shit. What did we win for that then? What did we win for being 30 games unbeaten? And why didn't we win the league? Because you messed it up at home. So, you know, we have been in this situation before, and we are a fine margins team, and we could go and win a load more games again. But those players tonight thinking about beating Watford tomorrow, I'm sure you will beat Watford tomorrow, and I hope you do beat Watford tomorrow. But is it not in your head that you're just about to embark on what you embarked a year ago, 2 years ago? You know, it's the same old thing. You'll go on a run and then it'll mess up again, and you'll be watching other clubs win titles. Do you think it would be insulting for the fans forum to bring up that fans would like a clearer division between the football and commercial side, says Joshua Bowater? Well, there should be. You know, Edward would, as CEO, there should be a CEO of football. You know, basically the director of football should be somebody really powerful, and the CEO should oversee the business side of things. Don't get me wrong, Ollie's done all right, but this is obviously his ceiling, says Ed B. Yeah, and he's not totally useless. I said that the other day. But looking at some of the other things he spoke about, he said that he was asked about, you know, going off to Norway. Has he communicated with the club about his position being in doubt? He said, I always communicate with the club. We've had a good training session this week and we're ready to go. He said that the pressure should be enjoyed. And we've been here before, as I said. Away record gives us confidence, and we've what's he say? We've corrected a few things, and we'll see a reaction against Watford. I mean, that to me is just this is why I couldn't watch it live. That is regurgitated stuff. We've corrected a few things this week in training, and we'll see a reaction. I definitely remember after the Liverpool game, he said exactly the same thing ahead of the Spurs game. We've worked on a few things. We've had a good week in training. It was, you know, like David says, blah, blah. He said nothing really. Exactly. That's why I couldn't watch it live, because it's this, you know, you could basically edit in Watford for Tottenham. Like after the Liverpool game, we've had a good week training. We've worked on a few things, and you'll see a reaction. And again, substitute Liverpool for Man City, and we will see a reaction. We saw a reaction. We did see a reaction after Liverpool for the Spurs game, and we will see a reaction against Watford for the Man City game, because we've got very good players who will react on their... It's called professional pride. They can't react against Man City. Look, in a very short explanation, people will say, why are you so confident against Watford, but, you know, did you not see what happened against Man City? Why were you confident against Spurs, but what Liverpool did? And it's basically this. Professional pride will kick in with most of that team tomorrow, and they will play energetically on pride and ability, and they will be too good for Watford like we were for Spurs, because there's a skill gap. Now, if they try and do that against Man City, they will lose, because Man City have got players as good as we've got, but they are coached properly. So we can put professional pride in, we can put effort in, but that won't be enough against Man City or Liverpool. But against Watford and against Spurs under Nuno, it should be enough, because they are not as good as we are. So I expect us to win tomorrow on the professional pride that will kick in like it did after Liverpool against Spurs. But yeah, in relation to Ollie, it's the same thing again. We've had a good week in training, we've corrected a few things, and I was like, well, this is just what he's been saying for the last 3 weeks. Ed B says, I work in finance, and it's uncanny how similar my company is run the same way as my football team, says Ed B. Because I used to work for a quite large banking company as well. And yeah, United are very similar to a bank, which is not surprising when they employ a load of bankers. Bankers with a B. You could spell it another way, but they do act like a bank. I am pleased to announce that my reign has ended as manager, as I've been appointed by Norwegian Circus as a jester, says Mr. Solskjaer. One thing I did notice from Solskjaer before we move on to some of your questions is that, you know, he I can't remember what he said just before it, but it was something like, we've had a good week, the players are raring to go, you'll see a reaction, and we've got the fans backing, as we always have for the rebuild. And I found that really interesting. Fans backing for the rebuild, because I didn't know whether he was talking about the past tense or whether we're still going through a rebuild. And again, I suppose context is key, but he hasn't got the fans backing. Again, is he just talking about the match-going fans? Because, the away support yesterday will be singing Ollie's at the wheel. And nobody should be bothered about that. Like, realistically, if the fans sing Ollie's at the wheel, it's a long way to Watford. A lot of them go on buses. They'll be having a great time. They'll have a few drinks. They'll be feeling, it's a way of life. It's a weekend event. Like, they look forward to it. It's not just the match. It's the camaraderie. It's the Red Army. It's the away support, the best away support, I believe, in the country. They ain't going to do all that in a good mood, get to the ground and start booing. Like, they're there to support the team, and it's a badge of honour to be the best away supporters in the league. And they did it with Moyes, they did it with Van Gaal, and they did it Mourinho. So what you need to do tomorrow is, if you get angry because people who have paid and travelled and want to go and sing Solskjaer, you can't get angry with those people, because they've earned that right. And they did it with Moyes and Van Gaal and Mourinho, and they'll probably do it with the next manager, if they get into that state. So I wouldn't be too, this is why we have division in the fan base. I'm proud of our away support. I think they're amazing. And if they want to sing for Ollie or any other player, then that's up to them. That is up to them. And I don't think it makes a massive amount of difference. But I do think Solskjaer uses them. I do think he uses them. And I think that's what he's talking about. Fans are backing us, because I think Solskjaer just focuses on that crowd, which is technically, I suppose, it's a bit of a minority when you look at it, because in the context, a few thousand people to a few million people. But I don't want to say that, because I don't think we should be divided. But it's interesting that Solskjaer said they got the fans backing for the rebuild, because I was like, well, you don't have a lot of fans backing at the moment. Most people I've spoken to, whether they're match-going fans or not, don't feel that a change is needed. And the fans backing for a rebuild, it's not a rebuild now, though, is it? I mean, if we're absolutely honest, this is not a rebuild. This is a fall apart. And what's a good word for fall apart? I'm past the point of results and performance. Just want to see a midfielder pass it forward. A defence I can trust. It was the Sir Alex Ferguson way, not the United way. We need a new way to get excited about, says Nick. Yeah, I agree, Nick. I mean, I said this about Conte. For me, the thing that would make me most excited if we got a Rodgers or a Zidane or a Ten Hag or an Enrique is they've never played for the club, they've never coached at the club, and they'd come in and do, hopefully, what Sir Alex Ferguson did, who never played for the club and never coached for the club. He came in with his own ideas and created a new United way on the principles of the past. That's what I want to see. I don't ever want to see another coach or player that's been involved with this club previously brought back in, because this mates rate nonsense, and it runs right the way through the club, in the offices, on the training ground, in the fitness department. It's all mates, and we need to move on from that. iPads are charged up, ready for your watch along, Marky, says Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and Glazers Out says C. But yeah, when Ollie said that this is the fans have been backing the rebuild, I'm not going to judge him on this in the fact that I don't know whether he said we're still rebuilding, but we're definitely not. If this is still classed as a rebuild, this to me, and I might be completely wrong about this, but this to me is I called it at the start of the season. I didn't think the season was going to be as bad as this. I didn't think this season was going to be as bad as this when I said it at the start of the season. I hoped we could challenge for a title, but I still called it the last dance, because I knew Pogba was going to go, I knew Cavani was going to go, and I knew the squad was too big that 4 or 5 other players would want to go at the end of the season. So it was really, this was what the rebuild was all about. And there was a rebuild for 2 years, I take that on board. But this season it was no longer a rebuild. Second last year, 3 good signings in the summer. This season was the top tip of the mountain. This was the season that you've worked for, Ollie. So if you're calling it a rebuild now, you're bullshitting yourself, because this ain't a rebuild. You're on the way down. Your rebuild to the top of the mountain was August. 2.5 years of work was August. This was where you either put your flag on on the top, or you get on a sledge and you slide down going wee. And at the moment, he's going wee down the mountain because that's what's going to happen. This is not a rebuild anymore. There will be a rebuild required, bigger than the one he started off with, because the amount of upheaval. I mean, we started the show about Jesse. There's loads of problems coming with this squad, and look, one of the biggest problems is Cristiano Ronaldo. Because if we're fighting for fourth and we don't get it, I think Ronaldo could be a real issue next summer, but hopefully not. But Pogba's an issue, Lingard's an issue, Dean Henderson's an issue, Martial's an issue, Telles is an issue, Van der Beek's an issue, Bay's an issue. There are more. So this is not a rebuild. This is the opposite of a rebuild. We've peaked. We've done the rebuild. We needed to deliver. Now I think we're going to be heading down very, very steeply. But look, I've gone through everything I wanted to go through, so let's start taking some of your questions in the chat. We've got a great squad, no need to rebuild, says Jarry. I don't think we've got a great squad, Jarry. I think we've got a very, very, very what's the word? I'm struggling for words tonight. Imbalanced squad. We've got loads of good attackers. We've not got hardly any good midfielders, and our defence is okay. It's okay. We've got cover. Some of them are underperforming, but our defence is good. Our goalkeeping situation is good. Our attack is very good, too many, and the midfield's not good enough. So, we've got an imbalanced squad. But I agree with what Benjamin says. The rebuild is over. Ollie's built this squad. We sat there at the start of the summer. I probably got it on one of my pages 4 or 5, weeks ago, and we listed off all the attacking options, and it was inevitable. Like my team for tomorrow. If I could pick the team tomorrow, by the way, because I sort of spoke about I would play Matic and Donny. If I was picking the team tomorrow, it would be De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof and Bailly, and Luke Shaw just ahead of Telles. I would play Shaw ahead of Telles, but I'd drop Maguire, which will never happen. But I would drop Maguire because I think he needs a kick up the backside. It wouldn't be a long-term thing. I'd start him against Villarreal, but I'd drop him against Watford just to let him know you can be dropped. Matic and Donny, Bruno, Sancho, Rashford, Ronaldo. That was my team, right? And somebody said, well, what about Martial on the left? And I went, Jesus, yes. I would put Martial on the left over Rashford because Rashford's not been very good. For the same reason, I wouldn't pick Maguire, who I like, and I like Rashford, but I would play Martial. But I said, you know what? Never even thought about Martial. I forgot we've got him. And that's the problem. We've got too many attackers. If you play Sancho, Rashford and Ronaldo tomorrow, that's Greenwood, Martial, Cavani, Lingard, Diallo, Mata. I almost feel there's somebody else. That's 6 people not involved. Ollie should be United manager till the end. Stop being a prat and keep the manager. Good luck and don't lose to Watford. Also, Manchester is blue, says Vast T. That explains everything. I don't. Martial's finished, and some people won't be bothered about that. Some people will, but yeah, I'd forgotten about Martial. But I do think Martial would work well in a front three with Sancho and Rashford. Sancho and Ronaldo. I think Sancho must start tomorrow. I expect Alanga's another player that should be being developed. Hannibal Mabry is another one as well. Send them to United Stand FC. If you know, you know. I'll develop them. Will we ever see Ahmad play 90 minutes? I mean, Ahmad, again, this week. I mean, I've not heard anything from the training ground this week, so I'm not going to lie and pretend that I have. But, I know back, as I said, I was told in January and February that he was on fire, and I expected him to be starting games, and he never really did. But he was on fire in training, and there's some certain clips of him on fire again. I think it's well known that Ahmad's on a level with a lot of our attackers. He's a fantastic player, but Ollie just uses the fact that he's new and young not to use him. It's nothing to do with ability. It's just he's got too many other options, and he doesn't want to use him. He didn't play in the under-23s tonight. I doubt he'll be involved tomorrow. I can't see how he gets on the bench tomorrow, to be honest with you. I don't see that. Ahmad hasn't got a future at United, says Abhishek. I think I know a lot of people are unsure about Brendan Rodgers, but he is exactly the sort of player that under Brendan Rodgers would get used. Remember, Brendan Rodgers comes into this club, and it's like, my job is to develop and nurture and win. He's got no past relationship with people youth players. So he doesn't have to be loyal or anything like that. He doesn't have to think about this, that and the other. I think Ahmad is the sort of player that Brendan Rodgers would use. But whether he'd use him or not, that's the whole point of a change. You know, that all these players that you think should be given a chance would be given a chance. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff tomorrow. Yes, it's one of those Saturday 3 o'clocks, but we will be live as per normal. I'm also doing a watch along for Leicester Chelsea at 12:30, and then Arsenal Liverpool at 5:30. I'm determined to find a good match to watch tomorrow. If players want to show support for Ollie, they should show on the pitch, not social media, says Simon. Hey, we'd be top of the league if it was about social media, you know. But you know that maybe that's what it is all about. Mark, I fear he'll play Fred and McTominay versus Lobok team. Well coached, play on the counter, says I mean, does you know, tomorrow team news, does it really matter to you that much? Like, if he picks Donny, are you going to start singing Ollie's at the wheel? I'm not. I've got to say, his team news tomorrow will probably be the most... It'll be like Spurs. I'll just be like, okay, let's hope we win. I don't... When you take away a long-term vision, it becomes very hard to start moaning. Like, I don't know what team he's going to pick tomorrow. I suspect he won't start McTominay and Fred because he'll keep them back for Villarreal. Villarreal, we're going to have to do a lot of defending, so I think he'll just put Fred and McTominay in for that one. And as I said on the preview, I think it's an opportunity to rotate and please the fans. I think tomorrow is a real opportunity, because I don't know whether he's going to do it. We won't know till the team's been picked, but tomorrow is a real opportunity to pretend that you're a rotator and to get people on your side, because if he starts Matic and Donny tomorrow, it will be natural for some fans to go, he's changed, he's been to Norway and he's changed. And I guarantee you, against Villarreal and Chelsea, you'll pick McFred, because we've got three games in a week, and you have to rotate when you've got 3 games in a week. So I think he probably will pick Matic and Donny and Sancho tomorrow. But will he pick them against Chelsea away at Stamford Bridge? Will he, heck? Do you really think he's not going to pick McTominay and Fred against Chelsea when we're going to be defending a lot? So I think we will see the rotation, and I think some people will probably fall for it, but I don't see it being a long-term thing. But, you know, he might pick McTominay and Fred tomorrow. He might just do it. I'd be very surprised if McTominay doesn't start. As I said, he sees McTominay as his Roy Keane. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't care if he sees him as Roy Keane or, you know, Roy Cropper from Coronation Street. It doesn't really matter to me what he sees him as. That's up to Ollie. But what I see is performance on the pitch. And I think one of the most important things is, if you go back to the Man City game, McTominay, Fred, Bruno were pretty dreadful. Liverpool game, pretty dreadful. Leicester game, dreadful. So, you know, I look at performance, and it doesn't matter what you think about individual players, because I think that's where you allow agenda to come in. And you know, they were crap. You know, this is the thing that matters to me, is that if you go back to that the Man City performance, people should have been dropped from that. You know, they walked out with the white flag, and then they carried on for 90 minutes like that. People deserve to get dropped from that Man City performance. Let's see how many people he drops. Because I tell you now, any decent coach, just because you've been on international duty, what was your last game for Man United? It was Man City at Old Trafford in a thorough embarrassment. I don't give a shite what you've done for Sweden or England or Portugal or whoever you've been playing for. Your last performance for Manchester United is all I'm bothered about. And it could be 2 weeks apart, it could be 2 months apart. You're back. This is what I'd be saying in the training ground this week. I'd say, well done on international duty. I'm glad you kept your fitness up. But do I look like Gareth Southgate? Am I wearing a waistcoat? Am I sponsored by M&S? No. I'm the Manchester United manager. And I tell you what, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 2 months, it could be 2 bloody days. I'm looking at that performance against Man City, and some of you were dreadful. So you want to be bloody careful about what's going to happen on Saturday, because I'm telling you now, some of you might not be playing. And I tell you what, I'd follow through on it as well. I wouldn't. No one likes to follow through, but I would follow through on it, because that Man City performance was abysmal, and certain players shouldn't play. But favouritism Ollie will not do that. There'll be certain players that played awful against Man City, but because they've had a good week training And because they were, some of them did well on international duty, I'll pick them. Should be 4 or 5 players dropped for the match tomorrow. Because you can always play them against Villarreal anyway. I don't want to use Harry Maguire because I think Harry Maguire's been overused at the moment and probably deserves a night off. And I like Harry Maguire. I think he's a good player going through a bad patch. But if you look at Harry Maguire's performance against Man City, it was dreadful, especially that second goal. Why is Harry Maguire one of the best headers of the ball in Europe not attacking across? So I would drop Harry Maguire tomorrow against Watford. And I would play Eric Bailly for his pace because they're quick. And I'd play Victor Lindelof and they can play together. So I'd drop Harry Maguire. And tomorrow when he's sat on the bench, not in the captain's armband, not playing, he'll be thinking, shit, I've been dropped. I don't like this. Everyone agrees with him being dropped. There's no outrage. Right, okay, I get it. And then you start him against Villarreal and you get a better Harry Maguire. That's why I would do it. Some people think if you get dropped, they're going to put the transfer request in, or they're never going to play for the club again. You know what management is? Sometimes management is taking somebody out the firing line, giving them a little bit of a warning, and then bringing them back in. So I would do that. He has to stick with McFred for me. They're his boys. Love the show, Mark says Dar. Yeah, I sort of agree with that. I mean, I get that if he picks Matic and Donny, why haven't you done it for the last year? Why have you stuck with McTominay and Fred? If you one thing Ollie's always been is very stubborn. Have the courage of your own conviction to stick with what you were doing before. I get that, but also we're playing in Spain on Tuesday afternoon against Villarreal in a game where, and look, I'll ask you a question for once. You can keep your questions coming in, but somebody said to me that there is still a good chance, and I say a good chance. I mean, Villarreal are playing at 1 o'clock tomorrow against Celta Vigo. But somebody said to me there's still a really good chance, not a really good chance, but there is still a chance that Manchester United could end up not qualifying. I don't understand how this would be the case. I really don't understand how that would be the case. And Villarreal are not on a very good run at the moment, by the way. They're currently... Let's have a look where they are. They're not even in the top 10. They're 12th at the moment. 15 points. Not doing very well at all. But that's by the by. That'll be for next week. If the lineup includes Donny tomorrow, I fully expect Ollie has been told to pick him to try and win the fans back, says Sean Turner. I don't do betting. I think Maguire will score tomorrow and I think Donny will start. I wouldn't bet on it, but yeah. I think Sancho will start, Donny will start, and Harry Maguire will score from a corner or a cross. Why any elite manager would want to come to United as owners doesn't want to win trophies, please explain. So yeah, Ollie's unsackable. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong about that, United supporter. Do you think Donny still has a future? No. Not under Solskjaer. Because I don't think Solskjaer will go with... I think Solskjaer will always go with Fred and McTominay long term because Solskjaer is a reactive coach, and a reactive coach is normally a defensive coach, and McTominay and Fred are the best 2 defensive midfielders he's got in his opinion. Varane, I don't think Varane will be back. I think there's an outside chance Varane might be back for Chelsea, but I personally wouldn't bring him back until the Arsenal game, which is the Thursday after. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see Varane back for Chelsea, which for me would be a mistake. But yeah, I don't understand how United can not... Let me have a look at this. Does anybody know how United could not qualify for the Champions League? Because I'm presuming that we will beat Young Boys, which would give us 10 points. So Atalanta beat Young Boys and go to 8. Villarreal beat us and go to 10. Atalanta beats Villarreal and go to 11, leaving Villarreal on 10 and us on 10 if we beat Young Boys. Would that be some sort of head-to-head shit then? Or is it come down to goal difference? Because our goal difference is going to be better than Villarreal. I don't know. I know there's a scenario, if we lose both. But if we beat Young Boys and Villarreal beat us on Tuesday and then Atalanta beat Villarreal, we'd be on 10 points with Villarreal and Atalanta would be top of the group. There we go. JW says, if Villarreal beat us and then Villarreal and Atalanta draw or Atalanta win, then we're knocked out no matter what we do against what young boys. Why? Why? I like Leicester in Dublin. But we beat Villarreal at home. So if they beat us, why would we go out? I don't know. That's not right. That can't be right. So what I'm thinking, Friday night Q&A, if Villarreal beat us on Tuesday and we beat Young Boys, we'll have 10 points. And Villarreal will have 10 points. So let's pretend Atalanta beat Villarreal and they go on to 11 points. That would leave us and Villarreal on 10 points. But we've both beaten each other. So how would we go out on head-to-head when we've both beaten each other? Because we beat them at Old Trafford and they'll have beaten us in Spain. Who's the most underrated and overrated at United, says Charlie YT. People are saying head-to-head. I know, understand what you mean by bloody head-to-head. I'll go head-to-head with you in a minute. I'm joking about that. But no, like, we beat them at Old Trafford. They beat us in Villarreal. How do they go ahead on head-to-head? We've both beat each other. You know what I mean? Yeah, it depends on the result on Tuesday night, basically, doesn't it? That's what it means. Somebody just said, we go out on head-to-head because Emery's a better coach than Ollie. Well, that might be fact, but I don't think that's a reason in the Champions League. Yeah, if they beat us 2-0, that could be... Yeah, so yeah, depends on the result on Tuesday. If it's 2-1 and 2-1, I presume it goes to goal difference anyway. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out. We'll find out for Tuesday anyway. But the reality is as well... we don't want to not finish top of the group. We want to finish top of the group because you get an easier game. Anyway, get your questions in. United waiting for an easier run so they can bring a manager in and looks like a good decision, says Nevans. I don't think we are. I'd flip that the other way and say United are waiting for an easier run so Ollie can scam some wins and stay in a job. I think that's what United are looking at. I think United are looking towards that Chelsea game and saying if we can get that Chelsea game out of the way, hopefully you can just sort of pick up a few points. But as I said this morning, I think it's a great point. Even if we won our next 4 games and took 12 points, if you add those 12 points to the 4 from 18, it would end up being 16 from 30, which is nearly half your points dropped. So, you know, the bad run we've been on is going to be an issue for a long time. Does anything make you happy about United at the moment? I might speak for myself here. I might speak for everybody. But from the heart, if United sacked Solskjaer and brought in a coach like Brendan Rodgers, I would instantly become very excited and motivated. Because whilst he wouldn't be my first choice, and there are other choices, it's a proper coach with a proper vision who develops and isn't attached to United in any way. And I think that's what we need to do. I would be so happy, I would be so enthused, and I would be so motivated because we'd have a plan again. And I'm telling you, and I'll repeat it again, as much as the players have had a lot of stick recently, I think they've got away with it. I think most players have only had stick because they've posted silly things on social media. It's been very rare after a game, you know, considering Leicester smashed us and Liverpool smashed us and Man City smashed us. I've never known that happen and the players get so little stick. Yeah, okay, Maguire against Leicester and a couple of other players, you know, Fred always get it. But it's been pretty tame compared to what it can be like when United don't play well. It's mainly been based against the coaches. So I think the players, as much as they might feel they've been, you know, they're in a bad position, I've never known it be so tame against the players and focused on the coaching, because that's what the problem is. You know, that's why people have fallen out with, you know, ex-players, because ex-players have tried to push it onto certain players. And the fans are like, nah, this is so obviously on the coaching. The players look lost. It's on the coaching. So I'll repeat it again. The minute they change the manager, if they change the manager, for me, every single player gets a clean slate. And, you know, that's one of the big things for me, because I always use Rashford and Greenwood, but you could use McTominay, Fred, whoever you want. I don't think any player is developed under Solskjaer. I really don't. I think some have found a bit of consistency, but I don't think they've developed. You know, I don't think certain players have learned how to read the game or, you know, get involved in a possession-based game. And I always use Greenwood and Rashford. I think they're the same players they were 3 years ago. Imagine if you bring a coach in that develops players. Look at Harvey Barnes at Leicester. You know, and that's an example of Rodgers, but there's plenty of other coaches who develop players. I would just love to see a manager come in that develops and coaches players, because I think if you take Marcus Rashford, for example, I think he's 60% of the player he could be. And I think that 40% he's missing is proper good coaching. And that is terrifying. And I don't know why the players haven't figured that out, because that is actually a compliment to them. I think, you know, apart from your Cristiano Ronaldos and your Rafael Varanes and your David De Gea's, who, funnily enough, have been 3 of our most consistent performers when they've played this year, they're complete. You're not going to teach Ronaldo anything. You're not going to teach Varane anything. And you're not really going to teach De Gea anything. All our other players have got gears. They've got development in them, and they're not being developed. So, you know, I would be so enthused and excited if we just changed the coach and and got rid of all of them and brought in a new coaching setup, because I think we'd start to see the real potential of some of our players. And I think a lot of them have got potential. Even a Diego Dalot. He's a young lad. And, you know, Dalot, everyone just writes him off. There is a player there. But he needs to be... I think Dalot is the best example of the lot. People write him off. Oh, he played in a game against West Ham and he was shit. Sell him. Oh, he's had one game now, has he? And he's not being developed. Imagine if a decent coach got hold of Dalot and developed him as a right back and taught him how to defend. And, you know, he became a good right back. Imagine if someone got hold of Wan-Bissaka and told him about positional sense and improved his game going forward. You know, I think there's so many players that would improve with proper coaching and are held back. And yet there they are with the scarves singing Ollie's at the wheel, backing him. But I don't know whether they can see it. I don't know. I don't know whether they can see that their game is hindered massively by the lack of development. And, you know, another big example is McTominay and Fred. They get a lot of stick justifiably, but they don't pick themselves. Somebody picks them. And we've been talking about McTominay and Fred as a fan base for over a year. And Ollie has stuck by them, and Carrick and McKenna and Phelan have stuck by them for over a year. Are they any different from what they were last November, a year ago? No. They still don't pick the runners up. That, to me, you know, people talk about their passing, but what infuriates me about those two is they don't pick the runners up. They leave the defence exposed. They don't pick the runners up. They're not particularly good at reading the game. They don't take the ball off the back four. They run and hide. And their passing's not great. And they've been doing that for a year. There's zero development in them. That's coaching. That is coaching. I've had people say to me, did you see McTominay today again hiding in between the strikers and not taking the ball off the defence? I see Fred again in his first touch, and it's like they're not being developed as players. And because they're in a bubble and because they're all good mates, maybe they don't see that. But sometimes it takes somebody with a helicopter view who's not emotionally attached to it to go, you know what? You might not like the criticism, but many of us have watched football for a long time. And ex-players and pundits in the media are talking about it as well. We're not emotionally attached to that. We're not on the training ground. We've watched football for years and years and years. Your game is not developing. You're no different than what you were a year ago. You're still making the same bloody mistakes and being asked to do a job that you're not good enough to do. Those players could become really good players if they were coached properly. Had a dream you were driving me to Old Trafford for my first ever Manchester derby and we were very excited about it, says Palash. Sounds like a good dream. Ultimate question is, how do we get rid of Ollie? Is it even possible due to mates' rates and the Glazers, as Andy and Bruno? Right, mate, it's not down for us. You've taken it back where it needs to go. We're back with the Glazers, aren't we? They are the people in charge of this football club. They are the reason the club is where it's at. They are the reason we're in this position where Ollie says today in a press conference, we've been here before. We know what to do to get out of this position. What that was an admission that he shouldn't be the manager, because he spoke about hitting the post and it going in or going out, fine margins and moments. And he spoke about being in this position before a year ago when we went on a good run about fine margins. We know what's going to happen. United could go on a really good run again. and then again there'll be a bad run. And you know, we should have got off this horse and bought a new horse, because this ride is very predictable and it ain't quick enough to win the race. And we need a horse that we can win the race on. And unfortunately, it's the Glazers who choose that, and they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. Mark, Ali's a legend and deserves respect, says Ahmad. Give him time to fix the problem. If not, then we get a suitable coach. Okay, yeah, I'll leave you to the replies you're going to get for that one. Henriksen says, are McTominay and Fred bad, or is it management problems? They seem to perform well in national teams. Well, you know what, EM? I can't stand them as a pair. I'd never pick them again for United. But again, it goes back to what I said. If we got a new coach in, I think people would say, we'll never see McTominay and Fred get picked again. Well, we might see them get picked again. But would they play in the same way? And that's the thing. It's the development of things, really. But we'll see. Look, tomorrow's a big day. It's a big day. There's a lot of good football. I'm looking forward to Leicester against Chelsea, because we're playing Chelsea next week. So I'm going to do that as a watch along on That's Football at 12:30. Then we'll be on this channel for United versus Watford, fan forum, player ratings and all that jazz. And then R5 Liverpool-Arsenal, which I think is going to be a really interesting game as well. So it's a fantastic long day of football. That's football and United Stand. Make sure you tune in. Yeah, I'm looking forward to having football back. You know what? Funnily enough, I think, and you can take this to the bank if you want, I think there's going to be a bit of toxicity in the fan base tomorrow night, because I think we'll win. I think some people will react to that win in a let's just get together and stick together and this, that or the other. I think some people will be like, I'm not being kidded by one result. But I think other results might go our way, and we might be able, you know, if Chelsea don't beat Leicester and we beat Watford, we're only 6 points off the top. You can see that sort of thing happening. So just be prepared for that. But ultimately what I would say is, look, try not to fall out with each other. We all dream the same dream and we want the same thing. There's no top bred. There is no better fan. It's just about opinion. And in the long run, that's all that matters. So, yeah. But let's see if that comes to pass. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Smash the like on video, and I'll see you tomorrow morning for, tomorrow for 3, hopefully, good games. Hopefully a Leicester win, a United win, and a Liverpool-Arsenal draw wouldn't be too bad, would it? But we'll see. We'll see. Scott, thank you for joining the Members Club. Take care, everyone. Really enjoyed the show. I always enjoy the Friday night show. It has a different sort of vibe to it. And I will see you tomorrow for Football's Back. Football's Back.